Yo, what's up, YouTube? This is your boy Jay from Keeping It Real, your arbiter of gaming news and commentary, hitting you off with a studio production video where you know this is your channel, where all gamers' voices are heard. With your boy Jay, always dropping the word. Keeping them other gaming YouTubers like, what you heard? And where you always know, we always keep it all the way real. So what's up, everybody? Just want to thank you all for checking out my studio production video today. And this one is going to be yet another dedication to, my boy Davy Jones, man. He is being quite active and busy, and I love this. He's hit me up with another well thought out comment where he's expressing some opinions and views. And of course, like always, you guys know this is an open forum for all gamers to have your voices heard. And that's what it's all about, man. Keeping the conversation moving where, you know, us as gamers can have a platform where we can speak our minds and voice our opinions, man, because that is the only way that we're going to be a good counterweight to a lot of these corporations, man. And you know, it's really important to have a positive gaming conversation moving forward. So, man, I'm dedicating this video to Davy Jones yet again, man. He's at it again. So I'm gonna go ahead and answer some of his questions, man, and launch this conversation. As well as, man, I wanted to go ahead and give a shout out to RG Viper. He's another cat that, man, is very active and very passionate. And he recently hit me up with a comment that, man, this whole you know, games as a service, he takes issue with it. So I wanted to embody his thoughts into this as well, because I think it's a part of the overall conversation that we're having. And I just wanted to break some of these things down. So first and foremost, man, I wanted to just start out with, so that we understand the premise of where we're coming from. Because I think what gets lost in translation, man, is a lot of guys think that when corporations do something, or even just businesses in the market, when they do something, they just poop these things out. It pops out of thin air and they just say, hey, we're just doing this to get more money from you. And you have to understand, in the gaming market, it doesn't really work that way. The way it works is that they implement something small. It starts out small. They implement it and they see what is the feedback from it. And you have to understand, once they get a positive feedback where it is something that's positive, and they see that as something positive for them in regards to revenue, then you have to understand, from there it becomes a business model. And once that happens, it's a chain reaction of events that happens after that, because you have to understand, the corporation's whole purpose is to make as much money as possible. So since this is their whole purpose, any business model that is a positive and a lucrative one that makes them money, they're going to be, the next step is to look to how could we expand upon that. So you have to understand that the process of this is a process that happens over time. And the thing is, when it comes to the market in that way, it is going to be driven by the consumer. So we, in this case, we are the gamers, we are the consumers, right? So we have to understand that these business practices are derived from us as the consumer creating the demand. Once that demand is created, it gives the indications to the corporations that, well, okay, this is something we should keep going forward with. So you have to understand that though we may have grievances with it and we may disagree with this or that, if we're in the minority of gamers, when the majority of gamers are just buying it up and eating it up, you got to understand that that's what businesses are going to go with. They're always going to go with the majority. So when they, excuse me, when they see that, hey, the majority of people are buying up all this stuff and it's and we're making a lot of money out of it. I just did a video, man. I put in the description that the gaming industry is growing triple times fold. as well as how much it costs to develop a AAA title these days. So you have to understand that, you know, I think we need to start asking ourselves that we got to look at it from the standpoint of, you know, how businesses work, how corporations work. And then we have to match that with what we want, right? And then we have to say, okay, you know, we get it how corporations work, but this is where we draw the line. And we have to fight hard to make sure we hold that line, because that's where it's a fine line between, you know, you enjoying yourself and then it being where, no, I feel like I'm being cheated and I'm being gouged. You know, it's a fine line, because when it comes to microtransactions, to give you an example, you having options to buy, let's just say, you know, skins or, you know, stuff that's just going to be cosmetic, not anything dance moves and stuff like that. Yeah, having that option in there for gamers, sure. But I think, you know, when it comes to, you know, a straight up pay for play, I think that's where me personally, I draw the line. You know, I don't want somebody hopping in, they only been in for an hour and they're already got more advanced stuff than I do, and I've been playing for 30 hours. I'm not cool with that. I just think that is totally unfair and obviously shouldn't be a thing. And I think it's those type of practices is the ones that we really need to be looking out for, and we really need to be mindful of. But that's what I mean by there's a line and we have to draw it as gamers. And you have to understand this stuff is driven by the market. So that brings me to Davy Jones' first question. He asked about Xbox Gold being free and how great of an advantage that would be if Xbox Gold was free. It also would show a tremendous, you know, dedication to the gamers. And it would be very popular. And I can tell you, in answering that question, I would say that I think as a show of that, I totally agree with you. And I think that, yeah, that would be a great thing. But you have to understand it from a business point of view as well, because I'm going to break it down from a business point of view. I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. When you look at online services, okay, you have to look at it from their point of view. From their point of view, they understand this. They're paying EMTs, they're paying tech guys, internet and mainframe engineers. There's a slew of overhead that they're paying when it comes to many of these different people who basically keeps the mainframes and all the servers, all the cloud technology, all that running. Understand this: Microsoft is spending millions of dollars on just keeping their servers, their mainframes, the cloud, all of that technology working as it is, to maintain it and keep it running, and also to keep the consistency of you know, Xbox Live. Xbox Live just recently had a little small outage. Now, it wasn't for that long. They were right back up. But you got to understand, they put a lot of effort into their network. And to do that and to have such a fast and available network, it costs the maintenance on that, and the ingenuity of that costs us a lot of money. That's just that alone. That's not including all the licenses and fees and lawyers. And I mean, you got to understand, when it comes to games, there's a lot about it when in regards to the business that gamers have no idea how much these companies are paying just to design something like the X. We're talking about probably a couple of $1 billion easily, just in the DNR and all of the work from all of the different people and groups who had to work on it, and all the licenses fees, and you know, the FCC fees, and all these different fees from all these different government organizations. Everyone has their hands out. Everyone is a part of it. So you got to understand that, you know, And all of that, think about this, all of that is to launch a console that they're going to lose money on. You got to understand that to the X in the hardware, when it comes to the hardware part of it, Microsoft is going to be losing money big time on each and every unit that they sell. Now, their investment is to hope that they make back that money on software end. Now, this is a typical way that companies leverage their revenue, their investment versus their return. But you have to understand that this is a big part of the investments that they've made. So what if you really look at it, you have to understand that for Microsoft or for any company in that position, they have to look at what they're willing to give and what they're willing to take. So for instance, it's one of those things where, yeah, we're paying $60, right, for our Xbox Gold. And I don't know if you know about this, Davey, but just recently, I think they did a free set of days for Xbox Gold for everyone to play. I see that they are trying to do, and they do also free games. They do free games. I think this weekend is going to be, the new Tom Clancy game. That's going to be free to play. They've been doing free to play games every weekend, big blockbuster games every weekend. So they've been trying to do more and more that they can to try to add more value to our Xbox Gold. And you have to understand, man, it's give and take. Like, so for instance, it took Microsoft millions upon millions of dollars to create an avenue of which we could have backwards compatibility. A lot of people think, oh, they just flipped a switch and then we have backwards compatibility. No, man, you're crazy. They had to spend millions of dollars of just trying to have engineers figure out how to make it work. Now, that's something a lot of gamers don't know about, and Microsoft doesn't come out there and say all that. They keep that internal. They deal with that on their own. But understand that Microsoft spent millions. This is another reason why Sony ain't doing it. They like, we ain't spending all that, man. Our architecture and the way it works, we'll be spending a lot of money on trying to figure out how to make something like that work. No, thank you. The hardware is not really built for it. It's a lot of complications that have to deal with that. They don't want to deal with it. And also, they see like, well, it's not going to make them money, because why would we want people to just be able to pop in a disc and play it for free when we can charge them every step of the way? That's how Sony sees it. They sees it about their bottom line. And you got to understand, Microsoft is seeing it that, you know what, everyone should be able to have an opportunity that if they have the game, not have to pay for it. Why should they? Go ahead, pop it in and play it. So you have to understand that there's give and take in this. You know what I mean? Like, you can't say that Microsoft has not been doing everything they possibly can to add more value to our $60 Xbox Gold yearly subscription fee, because they have. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's give and take. You got to understand that they're looking at their loss as well in all of the things they're doing, and they got to do something on the take side of it to make sure that they keep being a profitable company so they can keep providing us with these services. Like I think a lot of times that we kind of want it both ways. We want everything, and we expect them to just, hey, you do everything. And, life doesn't really work like that. Life is really give and take. I think, there could be a middle ground that we could take with the Xbox Gold, where we could say, hey, well, maybe just be $40. I don't know if you guys noticed, but usually I get my Xbox Gold for $40. Now, I know that's not for most people. I wait around till it's on sale, and I don't think I've ever paid $60 for my Xbox Gold, to be honest with you guys. I think I've always waited to figure it out where it was on sale somewhere, or where I could get it for a discount, and always got it for $40. I don't ever remember spending $60 for it. So, the regular price tag might be, $59.99, but I've never paid that. I've always paid $40. So, waiting for a sale is good too. That's another thing you can look out for. But I mean, a lot of us, if we can't get that, or if we're just forced, we just got to go ahead and just do it because of the timing. You got to understand that you got to look at the value that you're getting from that $60. and you gotta leverage that to, you know, the other things as well. Because yeah, we could say that, hey man, Xbox Live should be free, and I would agree with that assessment just across the board. But at the same time, you think about this, maybe if it was free, they wouldn't have invested into backwards compatibility, because hey, you know, well, you got free Live, so, you know, sorry, we couldn't do backwards compatibility. Or maybe they wouldn't have invested into an X. You see what I'm saying? Like, you got to understand, it's all about give and take, and it's all about the company themselves looking at a set of priorities and then prioritizing, okay, here, where we're going to take and where we're going to give. And I think if you look at Microsoft overall, I think they've done a good job with that balance, to try to make sure that, hey, where they're giving where it's most necessary, and when they're taking where it's not like, oh man, forget it, we can't do this. You know, this company is just completely anti-consumer, we can't do it, you know. And I think that's the thing to look at, you know. And I say that at the same time as saying that I agree with, yeah, I would like, and it is an annoyance that when it comes to at least playing your games online, I think the biggest annoyance to me is that I have to have Xbox Go to play a lot of my games multiplayers. And I think that's the biggest annoyance. But when I look at how much it costs to run a dedicated server, you got to remember, Microsoft has dedicated servers, you know, and they have the cloud. When I look at the conveniency and what it costs for all that to operate, I wouldn't just, and also you got to understand, look at how long Microsoft supports their games, bro. Like, you know, a lot of games that are out that are multiplayer, they be supported for a certain time and then boop, they're gone. They're not even supporting them online. Microsoft, their games be supported forever online and on multiplayer stuff. You'd be like, damn, they still got this on multiplayer? That's crazy. And you got to understand, man, all that maintenance and all that service on you know, online on those servers, man, costs a lot of money, man. That's not cheap to maintain that. And all the people that it takes to, you know, the jobs that it takes for those guys to do that, those guys make a lot of money. Those guys, any people dealing with computer or internet or mainframe or any of that type of stuff, dude, they make bank. Microsoft, you know, and companies like that, Microsoft or any of these corporations, they're paying those guys a lot of money. So you gotta, and that's just one each individual is being paid a crap ton of money. So you got to understand that, man, their overhead is tremendous, and they really, it's one of those things that, you know, it's kind of give and take. And, I think there could be some leeway to be made to say, hey, there to be, you know, free multiplayer. But one thing I see, what it looks like what they're trying to do is just add a increasing amount of value to your subscription fee, your gold subscription fee. And I see that increasing more and more as time goes on. I see them trying to make it a point to try to get the best games that they can possibly get. Remember, we're getting 4 games, man, every month, which is awesome. You don't see that with any other platform. So, and the quality of games are great, at least on a consistent level. Sometimes they get something where it's like you scratch your head, like really. But for the most months, you'll see really great games, man, that you'll love to play. I'm still playing Slimy Rancher. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of these games that they put out, I'm still playing them and enjoying them and loving them, man. So you gotta kind of like look at it from the point of view of overall, as opposed to just, you know, well, you know, and also look at it from a fair point of view. Us as gamers, or even us as consumers, we're not going to always have it every way that we want it, you know, in each circumstance. You know, there's always going to be give and take. So that's what I would say about that, man, to answer your question. I hope that's answered it. I tried to fully flush it out, and try to give different points of view on it. And thank you for giving that question. I think that's a great thing that, you know, us as gamers should really think about. But also, like I said, I think we really need to think about what is our give and take, and what are we willing to kind of deal with versus the things that we're also getting at the same time. So that's how I would answer that. The next question, man, you spoke about, you asked about the differences between Sony and Microsoft in regards to DRM. And you wanted, you know, to, you know, kind of know, you know, because, you know, Microsoft, Sony is took in a position of like, you know, kind of like lying about it, because they knew they were going to do the same thing. Sony knew damn well that was what they were going to come out on stage and say. And, when they seen the reception that the Microsoft got, they were like, yeah, we're going to maybe X-lay on the DRMA. And that's how things went down. And, they're on, went on trying to make fun of Microsoft. And it was just Microsoft being honest about it. So yeah, that's a true thing that happened. And the fact is, I mean, that's sometimes the price of being honest, but that shouldn't still make you think that, well, I'm not going to be honest from now on. I just think Microsoft, they were a little ahead of their time. And you got to remember, Phil Spencer wasn't in charge at that time, so I think if it was Phil Spencer, I don't think he would have came out with that, because I think at that time, and even still now, we're just, as gamers, we're not ready. That's more of a PC thing. Controlling our digital content in a way where we're controlling the number of times that we could, the thing like with computers where you have keys and it controls the number of times that you could transfer a game from one place to another, or to one person to another. That's just not our thing as console gamers. We're not with that. And I think it was just a fundamental misjudgment of that. Even though Microsoft was totally upfront and honest about it, which is a great thing, I think it was just a fundamental misjudgment of when it comes to console gamers, because I don't think that's something console gamers will ever accept, other than it just being forced on us. I don't think we would ever accept that and be like, yeah, we're cool with that, because that's just a thing that is kind of fundamentally against what console gaming is all about. You know what I mean? It's more of a PC thing, and that's great. But for console gamers, I just think that's just not where we're at. I don't think we're still there. So I just think they misjudged that. And you got to understand why they were doing that. A lot of that had to do with developers, them trying to support developers. Because you got to remember, at that time, you didn't have such a big thing about games for service and DLC, and that wasn't as big back then. So but that's the thing about the market. You see, they seen that, well, they weren't going to able to do it that way. That was a take that just wasn't going to happen, right? But you'll see how they develop other ways to take. They couldn't do it that way, so they're like, well, DLC and and microtransactions. We just gonna go that route. And that the thing is, that's what developers are a big part of that, because DRM would have really protected developers, and that's what Sony was Microsoft was looking out to try to do. And even Sony was into that, to do that, because they understood that developers, their costs for making and developing games are steadily increasing. So they were going to need to find a way to try to cut down on people just selling games. You got to understand, developers lose billions of dollars every year on people selling games, whether it be GameStop. You even got, they sell games at Walmart, Amazon, everywhere, sell used games everywhere. You got to understand, developers lose billions of dollars every year because of that. And that really hurts the revenue streams. And it was one of those things that Microsoft and even Sony was, trying to help them out. And it was just one of those things where gamers are like, nah, we ain't having that. We don't care. So that's what leads me back into what I was saying earlier when it comes to give and take. You have to understand that, developers can't just sit back and not do anything and keep everything the same when their cost to develop a game keeps steadily rising. They can't just keep simply having a game be $60 and that's it, like the old school days, when these are not the old school days anymore. Like, what a lot of gamers, I think, got to realize is, man, we're not in the old days anymore. In the old days, developers used to be able to just make a game and make everything they need to make in the game, and then that was it. And they're done. And set it for a set price, and they're done. And not have to worry about anything after that. But I don't know if you guys remember. Look at Nintendo back in the day. If you had a Super Nintendo back in the day, or even you had even a 64, those games back in the day used to be $80. I don't know if you got, in some of them cases, $100. I don't know if you guys know that. Like, go ahead and look it up. Look at how much Nintendo games cost back in the day. They used to be $80 to $100. I remember, I know, I brought them before. I brought them my Killer Instinct. When Killer Instinct first came out, I think on the Super Nintendo, or I think it might have been the 64, I forget which one. That shits was $80, dog. I'm not even lying. Go look the crap up. Look it up. The original Killer Instinct, for the first time it went to Nintendo, it was priced at $80, I believe. $79.99. $80. So you got to understand, and it wasn't just because it was a cartridge, okay? A big part of that was that you got to understand the development costs were high when it comes to a high quality of game like that. And that was just a port. So you'll see like a lot of the games back in the days, they were a lot more expensive. Now, yes, the cartridge, it being a cartridge, has to do with it. Of course, that has to do with how much has to do with it. But another thing that has to do with it is these games were solid games. They weren't games that added DLC or any of that. Now, as games got a little steadily cheaper, because they were cheaper to produce, at least when it comes to making the copies of the games. Because when CD came in, of course, the production cost got a little cheaper because it was a little cheaper to make CDs, right? And DVDs. But you still had, at the same time, the cost was rising when it comes to developing the games, because the games got a lot more sophisticated in regards to graphics, in regards to plot and story, and all these things. Different technologies started coming into play, increasing the cost of development. As development started becoming more like making a movie, all the costs went up. You got to remember, it's been a long time since we've had, since they first started, physical face capture, where it captures a live person on a digital stream. Like that type of rendering costs. You got to hire actors now. They do voiceovers, all this stuff. You got to understand, man, the developmental costs of everything has increased. And developers had to look to ways to remedy that cost. When it comes to their investment, they had to have a return, and they weren't going to be able to do that just on selling a game at $60 anymore. And so you got to understand that it's give versus take, and it's up to the developers or these corporations to look at, okay, where do we give, where do we take? And that's it. It still goes back into that. Even this about DRM, it goes back into that, because the thing is about DRM was about controlling the cost and making sure that developers will get their due. But since that didn't happen, of course, they got to find other avenues where they're going to be able to be able to keep putting out the same quality or better content. So you have to understand, man, it's all about a delicate balance, and it's all about giving and taking. Where do we give? Where do we take? And when you look at it from that point of view, you'll start to understand a little bit better that, okay, I get it. I get kind of where they're coming from, and yeah, it makes sense. And then you'll understand a lot more how it really works, because the thing is, the reason why we're increasingly moving in the direction we're moving is because it's all about that give and take. I think we're looking at a couple options. It's either going to be our games are going to just increase to $100, or we're going to be, notice that's where you see a lot of games are at. Even when it comes to the limited edition, I'm going to get the limited edition Shadow of War, the gold edition, and it's going to be $100. And guess what? I'm cool with that. I like that steel case. I like that ring. I like the whole thing come with it. I'm cool with it. You know what I mean? Because I know I'm gonna enjoy the game and love the hell out of the game and play the game for a long time. No, I'm not gonna need to buy no loot boxes or any of that, because I play my shit, so I'm not tripping. But the thing is about it is, that's kind of besides the point. The point is, you'll see a lot of games. This is the reason why a lot of games have different editions, because they're trying to more and more give you incentive to spend more on the game. And this is the reason why games have microtransactions. And because the whole point is that, hey, we spent so much money on developing this game, doing the marketing for this game, doing all the ads for this game. You gotta understand, everything all combined together, they're spending, billions of dollars on these games, man. They really are. It's stupid how much money that they're spending on these games. So you got to understand, they have to make up for that somewhere. If they're not charging you a standard $100 for a game, then they got to make it up somewhere. So since they're charging us $60, you got to understand, the $60 price tag on a game is kind of an illusion, because it's really for I'm talking about from their perspective. It's only $60 for a certain amount of time. Look at how fast it didn't used to happen this way. If you look at how the rate of which games go on sale these days, it's ridiculous. It's kind of like the rate of which movies go to DVD. I don't know if you guys have noticed about how fast movies that come out in the theater, how quick they go to DVD. Back in the olden days, when you had a movie, that shits would be out in the movie theater forever, bro. I mean, you trust me, you ain't gonna be going and seeing that movie at home no time soon. Movies like even E.T. I don't know if y'all remember E.T. E.T. Phone Home. That shits was in the theater forever. Okay, like, and even when it came to cassette tape, because back then they had cassette tapes. I don't know if any of y'all old enough to remember cassette tapes, but it cost $100. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like you can go get it on sale at Walmart for $99. I mean, for, $19 or some shit. No. It was none of that. And it wasn't even readily available. It wasn't even like you could just pick one up. No. And it was $100. And it still took a couple of months after that before it would come to where everyone could just really get their hands on it. And the reason why, man, is because you got to understand, then versus now. Nowadays, everything is instant gratification. Everything is, man, we already watching the movie before it even comes to DVD on whatever, avenue that you're watching it on, before it even comes to DVD. And when it comes to DVD, it's going to, it comes to DVD quick because they see how much money they're losing by keeping it out in theater. It wasn't used to be like that back then in those days. They used to make tons of money in theater. Now they don't make as much money, and on top of that, they piracy is killing them. We already watching the movies before the movies even hit DVD. So you got to understand that the market, they have to change. This is the reason why it comes out so quickly. And you got to see, when it comes to $60 price tag, that is the same way when it comes to games, because yes, it's $60 when it first come out, but look at how fast it's already on sale for maybe $49. You see what I'm saying? Look at how fast GameStop, especially, is already getting their hands on used copies and already selling it for $54.99 or $49.99 or whatever. Look how fast that happens. It happens like that. So you have to understand, this is a thing that developers have to contend with, and it's one of those things that they have to look at. Okay, man, already our game is already being discounted. So if you put that into the fray, you can understand why they would look to other avenues to try to generate revenue. Because when it comes to that $60 price tag, that's more like a illusion, man. Because a lot of the games that they'll sell won't be at that $60 marker. It'll be below that. You know what I mean? So, and in fact, maybe even probably 2/4 of the games that they sell may not even be at that marker. It just depends on how well the game's doing. But in general, you're going to be getting millions of copies sold that are less than a $60 price tag. So it'll have you understand why they go through so many different avenues of trying to have different additions and DLC and microtransaction, because they're trying to make up for those losses in any way that they possibly can. And all of this is to ensure that we do see another sequel to the game, or we do continue to see online support for these games. So we as gamers got to look at that from the business standpoint, understand what it is, and then say, where are we willing to draw the line? Now, I say all this not to say that corporations are right about everything, not to say that, okay, just look at it from their point of view. Of course, us as consumers and gamers, we need to look at it from our point of view too. And in regards to that, you have to understand that that's why it's so important for us to understand their point of view, because we need to understand their point of view so we can set reasonable expectations of where our point of view is because the problem is when you don't do that, you don't really have reasonable expectations. You're just really like, kind of immature and naive about it. So you say things and do things that are not going to really be part of actually knowing what you're talking about. And I think that's the problem. The problem is when we think from that point of view of not knowing what's up, well, then we don't lend ourselves to be educated and knowledgeable about where we should be when it comes to a reasonable conversation, you know. And I think that's what's the most important things we need to do. We need to look at it, okay, what is reasonable, understanding the give and take of what the corporations need to do, and what's reasonable when it comes to us as gamers, when it comes to our give and take. And I think when you have that, that's when you can really draw a line and say, this is where I'm willing to be, and I'm not willing to go no further than that. But it's only then when you have that knowledge and you have that understanding that you can truly really do that. And I think that's the most important thing to take out of all of this, is that we really need to educate ourselves on how these businesses really work. You know, the background, how it really works. And that's what I'm here for. It's just to break these things down to you guys. And that's really what I speak from. That's why I keep trying to tell guys, it's not about no fanboy stuff. This is about us as gamers and consumers. Just having positive gaming conversations so we can move the needle forward. And that's what it needs to be about. That's why a lot of this fanboy stuff, us as gamers, you know, you guys is doing that, really need to cut that stuff out, because it really just distracts from the overall positive conversation that we should be having, you know. So yeah, man, that's gonna be my video on that. Again, this is dedicated to Davy Jones. Once again, man, I really appreciate you putting it out there. I hope I pretty much answered your questions. And yes, indeed, I am gonna be looking to go ahead and pick up Horizon Dawn, probably that special limited edition. That's what I will be waiting on. That if any one I would get, it will be that one. So yes, thanks for, you know, the heads up on that. Yeah, I'll be looking to get that one most likely. Yeah, man, I really appreciate it. And once again, man, that shout out to the PG Viper. I really appreciate, I mean, I'm sorry, RG Viper. I really appreciate you, man, being out there, you know, being active on the comments, man. You always have really good comments and hit me with some really knowledgeable stuff, man. And just hang in there, man. You know, it's all about us as getting together and having these conversations, man, and trying to move the needle forward, and changing other gamers' mind frames so they can be more aware of what's going on and more educated on what's going on, and then make more wiser decisions. Okay. So yeah, man, that's gonna be my video. Appreciate if you guys like, share, subscribe. Hey, you guys, you know, share my stuff. You know, we growing this channel together, and it's all about us as gamers. All right, man, until the next time. This is Jay. I'm always keeping it real, and I'm gone.